This is a "are you kidding me" moment for Bill Barr's Justice Department. There's a lot that's been wrong with this case from the very first inception to this now embarrassing in custody death.
There's some significant questions on how somebody who it was such a high-profile defendant could be found dead and how this could have happened.
All deaths in custody are investigated, and here the DOJ went further. They did a more exhaustive watchdog probe published by the later Biden administration. Years later, Congress used its powers to request even more information in this new Epstein transparency law, which demands evidence on the death, incident reports, witness interviews, medical examiner files, autopsy reports, and records on the circumstances and cause of death. Now, citing cause is big. It shows Congress's current view that the government's stated cause of suicide is under review. The Trump DOJ did declare it a suicide. They also bungled the probe and the crime scene. Later, the Biden administration reached the same conclusion. So, right now, is Congress questioning if Epstein did take his life? Well, leader for this law, Democrat Robert Garcia, says yes, and the Trump DOJ, he says, is still hiding the death documents. Documentation around Epstein's detention and death. Do you have all of the known requested such documents?
I mean, absolutely not. I mean, the DOJ right now, first, they've withheld 50% of the documents at a minimum. I'm not sure if there's any person in this country that isn't suspicious, at least somewhat, of the circumstances around Jeffrey Epstein's death.
Amid those suspicions and the new law, we are now building on our Epstein reporting. We previously did a legal case timeline. Tonight, we have this new timeline of Epstein's death. The original story, the pending questions, and now what we're learning from some of the new files. We can report that the Trump DOJ bungled the initial probe, oversaw evidence failures and officers who broke the rules, some later indicted. They failed to even take fingerprints in Epstein's cell after finding him dead. And that the Garland DOJ dithered in its probe, minimized key problems, and the most important news. We can report tonight the DOJ cut an FBI account of a possible sighting of an inmate near Epstein's cell the night of his death. Now, let's follow the timeline through the sometimes bombshell evidence. We begin in July 2019. Epstein arrested on sex trafficking charges, denied bail, jailed. Soon he was found in his cell with an injury. July 23rd is the key date. In this death timeline, that's the first big date because he was found with an orange cloth around his neck. Epstein first telling staff his cellmate tried to kill him per government records, later saying he didn't know what happened. Now, that could be a key claim from someone who would soon be found dead with similar orange prison garb around his neck. Now, Epstein's cellmate denied that, telling staff that Epstein tried to hang himself. Another inmate agreed with part of that. And a preliminary jail probe reached no conclusion either way, citing insufficient evidence. Now, that incident led them to put him on suicide watch. But oddly, that ended after just 6 days. Now, think about that. If the Trump DOJ concluded Epstein injured himself in self-harm, not an attack, why take him off suicide watch so quickly? And if they thought the attack complaint was possibly credible, then they were on notice of a possible threat to Epstein. Now, later, he gave a conflicting account of the same incident, saying he didn't know what went down and then he wouldn't discuss injuries. There are also reports Epstein was advised to pay protection money to be safe from jail attacks. Now, the jail did take a precaution, assigning a new cellmate after the jail psych ward said Epstein should get an appropriate one. But that didn't last. The jail transferred Epstein's new cellmate out and then failed to assign a new one. That proved crucial. A day later, Epstein's body was found, having been left alone in his cell, despite the recent suicide watch, the mandate that he not be alone. Now, Epstein had been regularly meeting with his lawyers on site. We also know that 2 days before the death, on August 8th, he updated his will. Now, this was only discovered later. Updating a will can indicate that a person's pondering death. Investigators don't view a will change alone as strong suicide proof, though. Instead, psychological autopsies use several factors, not one behavior. And a will change can reflect one's fear of death, be that from disease or a murderer. So in our timeline, the will change with other factors is circumstantial evidence, perhaps that Epstein was suicidal, which some have noted. Now, inmate lawyer meetings are private, so the jail didn't know about the will until after his death. The change, the government's chief psychologist says it would have been a red flag. So Epstein was then found dead on August 10th after these developments. Now let's zoom in on the night before. Jail rules only allow inmates personal phone calls on a recorded line. But Epstein made a secret, unsupervised call around 7 p.m., telling staff he was calling his mother, a lie, since she'd been dead for 15 years, and yet staff allowed Epstein to break the rules with this call, unrecorded and unmonitored, before going back to his cell. If the staff followed the rules, we would have audio of Epstein's final conversation hours before he was found dead. Evidence of his state of mind, maybe more. So why would staff let this inmate, indicted for grave crimes, break rules? The DOJ report quotes an inmate who saw Epstein's power and money intimidating officers, that Epstein would, quote, tell them he was writing down their name for his lawyer and they were on eggshells around him. Now, the DOJ says it found that Epstein called a woman that he was dating. Epstein told the guards, he told her the guards were, quote, trying to keep me safe. She recounted to the DOJ through her lawyer. Now, if that's true, it paints Epstein as more concerned that night about his safety rather than suicidal in his remarks. Could be that the lawyer's summary is also misleading or incomplete. Now, on our timeline, the guards then return Epstein to his newly empty cell after the call, but in another protocol violation, they failed to do required overnight checks. The inmate counts every 30 minutes, which was part of the protection and the whole point of having him in this special unit. Instead, he's alone and unmonitored for 8 hours until officers found this scene, the ripped prison uniforms fashioned for a hanging.